Okay, my name is Kostas Stylidis. I work at Chalmers at the EMS department in the group of robust design and geometry assurance. And this story, what you see here today, what I would like to talk is, as you could already understand, probably could understand, that it's employed quite a lot of different topics and things, and how we came to this, so how we get there where we are. So I will describe a little bit our previous research with the follow-up advancement, and then of course latest news, and then we will hopefully discuss it with the questions and answers, whatever you have. It's actually, everything have started, for me at least, about 10 years ago, when I was in Mumbai looking out of my window with nice birds around, and I realized that I got accepted as a PhD student in Sweden for the geometry assurance and robust design research group. So at that point I was thinking, okay, what I will do is probably multi-objective variation simulation and other statistical things. Apparently, it went not as I expected, because of the simple fact that we all probably know that people interpret information very differently. And that's happened to me as well. So the topic which I was investigating for the last almost 7-8 years was a perceived quality. Perceived quality, when we began the journey, it was rather just a procedure in the car industry, a checklist, ticking the boxes about what is okay and what is not okay in the complete car. And there was no holistic view on that theme, on that topic. So what we realized immediately, almost immediately, is that of course there is a difference between what car designers or engineers are intent to do and what values they try to convey through the product, through the car, to the customer, and what customer actually expects. And these two words are usually not connected. So the idea is that we minimize that asymmetry in the informational flow from the designers to the customers, and that was actually the largest question, and is still the largest question for us. We will get back to this. I have a picture of George Okiloff. It's a Swedish-American scientist who got Nobel Prize for that discovery. He had a very nice article, Market for Lemons, where he actually explained for the first time what is information asymmetry, is when one party has way more information than another one. To give you the better explanation, is that the cars today become so complex that it's very hard and very difficult to differentiate your product for the car manufacturers. It's hard for them to differentiate their product and prove that it has a certain advancement comparing to the other manufacturers. So it has certain tips and purposes. All this together is becoming extremely different task, and we need to address it somehow holistically. So during my PhD studies, I performed like a very long, in terms of time, qualitative study on the almost majority of the car manufacturers. We went to all these car companies and we talked to the professionals. We tried to capture how they work with the perceived quality, what attributes they use, what strategies they apply, and so on and so forth. As a result of it, we came to the conclusion that we need to create some sort of a common language in the first hand. that professionals and researchers could talk. Why that? For the very simple reason that usually information about perceived quality is a highly classified information at any OEM. That's a top secret, and of course, no one wants to reveal their secret ingredients of that, how you cook in new, and what you add, what ingredients you add in the new product, especially when you design something really new. That's why we decided to approach this from the human side, and we created so what we call the sensory perceived quality framework based on the human senses, because we assess everything with our basic senses. So each attribute is attached to the specific sensorial experience, and this is how, using these 32 attributes that we have identified, we can describe actually complete vehicle. And we can more or less objectively measure the relative importance of specific design features or specific attributes for the customer. Because the outcome of my PhD thesis 2 years ago, it was so-called PQR methodology, perceived quality attributes importance ranking. Methodology, which is a practical tool for the car industry, how to find what is really important, how to find a trade-off between equally important attributes. And it could remain as a theory unless that for the last 2 years, we have been validating that method in industry, which is quite rare case, I would have to say, when we're so lucky that we were able to apply academic findings directly in the industry. But we have done several studies, and we have published a number of papers on the cases that we did. Some of them you could see here on the screen. For example, very nice master thesis was with the design of a top tether component. It's a very tiny component in the car, and Volvo wanted that our students will make it premium. So very common task in the car industry, make something look premium. But how to do it in terms of engineering specifications, so that's a problem. Usually, we address it with statistical knowledge, we address it with the customer input. The same applies for the case with the Porsche Panamera central console. And we have done several studies with SEFT here in Sweden, where first we were investigating user preference about geometry appearance attributes. And the last study, which was quite interesting and unique because it was a first on its kind, it's about understanding interior and exterior light sources impact on the customer. So after this testing and validation went through, as I said, the span of almost 2 years, we have been finally recognized by the really large players. A2 Mach 1 officially announced a collaboration with our research group on the topic of perceived quality, and A2 Mach 1 automotive benchmarking. That's one of the largest benchmarking company and tear down company in the world, with almost, as you can see here, 800 vehicles disassembled, and they have an enormous database of images related to every single piece of car. With many years recognized in the field. So we were extremely happy to work with A2 Mach 1, and we still continue that collaboration. You will see it in the next slides. Research-wise, the outcome of this was that, of course, framework and vision on the perceived quality as a multisensory event was also recognized and followed up by our fellow researchers from other universities. The paper, the article describing the PQR methodology was quite well accepted by the community, with a lot of reads and a good number of citations so far. This article actually was quite a big struggle in terms of that it took us almost 2 years to publish it, with 5 major revisions, and in the end it went so good. So I'm really thankful here, for example, to still anonymous, to me unknown reviewers with whom at the beginning I was quite angry, imagining 5 times being rewriting that paper, but in the end it really went good, and I think without that help, without that feedback, it would not be possible. Also, sorts of software, a worldwide leader in the conjoint analysis, have granted us 2 years academic license for use of their software, because one of the statistical methodology that we use in the PQR is best worst scaling method. So this was really nice from the industry side that they recognize our academic efforts here. I'm personally really grateful for that. But that's what happened in the past, mainly for during the course of my PhD studies. The next, what we have started here is we try to develop and understand a digital twin for geometry assured production. And for the digital twin, I have to say here a few words that we all know, or I hope the majority of the viewers of today discussion know what is Industry 4.0, where we have, or at least we're aiming to connect the virtual world together with the physical world. And what exactly we mean by the digital twin, which is another funny fact I would like to show here, because the majority of researchers actually thinks that digital twin for the first time was presented by NASA and John Vickers specifically. But I have to say the origin of the first idea about the digital twin is still unknown. What we know for sure is that it happens in 2002, and what we know for sure, it happens in the University of Michigan. But there's still debates who was the first. Was it Dr. Greaves presenting the concept of the digital twin for the automotive industry and as a product life cycle management platform, or it was a NASA which was actually using that during one of the Apollo missions. Anyway, today, it's almost 20 years have passed since the digital twin have been introduced. So today we're quite concrete, I guess, quite specific with the definitions of what is a digital twin. I'm just trying to refresh your memory here if needed, probably. So digital twin is a set of virtual information construct that fully describe a potential or actual physical manufacturer product from every level, from the, let's say, atomic micro level to the macro geometrical level. And digital twin has 2 types. The type number 1 is digital twin prototype and digital twin instance. And these types of digital twin, they operate in digital twin environment. Specifically, if we speak about digital twin prototype, it describes usually the prototypical physical artifact. That means it contains all information which we need to describe and produce a physical version, and it's actually twins. It's a mirror in the virtual environment as a virtual version. We have there different informational sets, sets of requirements, 3D models, etc. Speaking of digital twin instance, we talk here mainly about corresponding a physical product to the individual digital twin. So it still remain linked throughout the life to the physical product. And here we have not only the 3D models, but also geometric dimensions and tolerances, which describe the geometry of a physical instance or its components and in components. Different operational states together with the sensor data and so on and so forth. As long as both types of digital twin operates in digital twin environment, the practical use for us here is that we can use it as a predictive model when it means digital twin will be used for the predicting future behavior or performance of the physical product, or we can interrogate in terms digital twin instances in terms of current and past histories to analyze and probably model the future behavior as well. So frequent questions and answer about the digital twins. Do we always need a physical entity? Yes, we always need, because otherwise it's a model. And do we always need a bidirectional data flow? Yes, otherwise it's a digital model or digital shadow, which is also quite a hot topic today, because what is digital shadow? According to Bauhaus, digital shadow is a sufficiently accurate representation of the processes in production development or adjustment areas with the purpose of creating real-time analysis basis for all relevant data. So digital shadow concept is that it has to supply the right information at the right time in the right place with the right quality. Acceptance level is of course up to us. But that's all the theory around the digital twin. And what happened next? If I found this funny discussion, I mean, it's not funny because I found it quite interesting, but still ironic discussion in the ResearchGate website, where researchers, someone asked, even almost 20 years, there was no actual digital twin in the presented. So what is the problem, or what is the obstacle? So why we don't have a fully working digital twin so far? And the major outlines of this discussion was that there's definitely families of obstacles we could see here on the screen. For us, for the Chalmers here, for my research, I guess, yeah, verification and validity issues, that's a main obstacle for implementation of digital twin or even digital shadow. But the major problem, the largest problem, is that the main obstacle is simply our understanding of the physical world. Technology requires us to capture the physical world phenomena, and digital twin actually is built to simulate that, but there's always a mismatch between the customer, I mean, we can speak about internal, external stakeholders here, and what digital twin can provide in the practical terms, for the simple reason that the digital twin does not provide the meaning of information for managing optimization flow. And that's what we came to one of the first slides, which I showed. We're coming back to the information asymmetry, we're coming back to the discrepancies in the understanding of product between engineer and customer. However, we still address the problem because we still need to move forward, but the small steps have been done. And these small steps were as following. So first of all, we tried to investigate perception of geometrical parts, specifically of gap, flash, and parallelism in the virtual environment, comparing to across the different mediums. So we have been comparing a VR we compared AR and we compared physical models. That paper was published in the ISET conference with quite interesting results. We were trying to identify are people able actually to distinguish any irregularities, because among the three models of the toasters that you have see here, one model was always nominal. It was a perfect toaster with no any absence of any sort of defects, and the other two had obvious irregularities that we have in after production in the terms of gap or flash or parallelism of regarding the split lines. So we were able to identify that people actually can clearly distinguish between these irregularities, even though in the virtual environment. So then when we moved to the next step, and together with University of Zagreb with CAD lab, we tried to create a digital twin of the Volvo car, of the XC60 model. So we, with the help of Volvo cars, we make pictures of the real car, and then we created a nominal model in the digital environment with the help of Unity software. Evaluating a perception of specific, again, a set of the specific gaps, flashes, and parallelism issues in that specific car, trying to understand how much actually of information we're losing, how much of what amount of information we're losing when we're moving a product from the physical form into the virtual, its virtual representation. That's very important because we're trying to, in simple words, to say how good are the pictures, how good is the visuals. And that's, of course, moved us to the next stage, because we understood at that point that perceived quality as a term, as an instance, as a research area is simply not enough. It's something bigger. So what will be the next? We moved to the series of quite interesting studies just recently. One study was done on, it's still in the analysis phase, but we have completed the data collection already. So, and we have started the analysis. Preliminary results are very interesting. So we were able to quantify impact of electrification trends on the perception of interior design. This study was done in the US market, luxury car market segment. We have interviewed 200 real Americans who own a luxury car in any form of ownership, meaning, and just to calibrate the data, we performed the same study, exactly as a mirroring study with our students, just to see how different might be the results. So the correlation went actually pretty good. Very soon we will publish these results as a journal paper, hopefully. We also have performed here with the help of Geely Design and with collaboration with German Hochschule Niederrhein. We have performed study on car seats, because our major question here was that, can we rely on the pictures when we're assessing the first impression of car seats? And what would be the outcome of this study? The data collection is also completed. We are in analysis phase. The results are also very promising. Sorry for that teasers, but we will publish it soon. And I have to mention here, so these studies, the both studies would not be possible without a collaboration with A2Mac1, who gave us access to their database of images, because you could see there's also certain specific requirements on the how Images have to be taken, different resolution requirements, and so on. So that's kind of technical specific stuff. But again, thanks to ATOMAC 1 managers for that support. But we still have to talk about how we address the data-informed issues. And just to conclude a series of studies that we performed, and I get back to the theory, I have to say that we always have to remember that before we became consumers, we were humans. And just to confirm that statement, I have to say that actually the multisensory approach, I believe, still will work. So we still can describe a majority of attributes with this. And we can, so the next step for us would be that we're aiming quite high. We're aiming to simulate the behavior of a customer. So we would design based on current data-driven observation. Then we execute that design. Then we measure execution to the design. How good is this? How reliable is it? Continuously adjusting and course correcting that according to the changing market conditions, which is also changing, according to the geographical location, and according to the new emerging technologies, like, for example, right now, the new disrupting trends of electrification and digitalization. So all that pieces of information, all that pieces of knowledge, all this, to me, it creates what we call digital nebula. So that's like that kind of proto material thing, which hopefully will be able to analyze the customer and predict and model a customer behavior in real time. But obviously we need more information, and for that I have to say we have been granted from Chalmers Innovation Office, we have received a grant to develop a digital architecture analyzer, so-called. That means we are trying to capture new attributes from architectural design, because there are certain technical attributes which we still struggle in the car industry to define them. Like, for example, what is the harmony? How you define something harmonic? How would you describe that something is aesthetically pleasing or not? So how would you define what is disturbing in terms of integrity of the design? So we had an idea together with other researchers here in Chalmers that we could find that information, we could find that pieces of information in architecture. So far, we're performing interviews with the top architects in the world, so including Swedish architects, Indian architects, Italian, Great Britain, Greece. The idea is something that we did before 7 years ago, trying to define new attributes, map them on the sensorial experience, and prepare them so they will be ready for the machine learning algorithm. Because what happened now for the machine learning algorithm? So at the moment, we're at the stage of data analytics. So we have some data sets, we can extract insights from these data sets, we can analyze it, we can pretty good interpret it. But this process is still not automated. So the next step would be is that we need to learn more from these examples. And as long as we will know exactly how much information we're losing from the using of the pictures or AR and VR environments. So as long as we will know it exactly, we will be able to perform deep learning algorithms, to apply this deep learning algorithms on the data that we have and on the new data which we will collect. So that's a prominent goal for the next years in terms of this type of a research. But to facilitate it, and I'm concluding now because I see the time is running up, we have created a special interest group within the design society. It's in the formal approval stage at the moment. But we have, as you could see, a large amount of players among these. From the academic side, we have Politecnico di Torino, Politecnico di Milano, Norwegian Technical University, University of Zagreb, West Virginia, Vilnius, Aachen, Niederrhein, University of Göteborg, and Chalmers. So these are very bright minds with expertise in different areas, from user experience, design experience, gamification, artificial intelligence, cognitive neuroscience. So the expertise is really wide. And from the industry, we have also amazing people from SEFT, Volvo, Geely, Rival, Faraday, A2Mac1. So I would actually take an opportunity and say that if you feel and if you could be interested in that research, you're always welcome to join that discussion forum, because we can raise a lot of questions here and to discuss a lot of things within that framework, and to share that knowledge as well, plus to create new things. And the final slide, which I would like to conclude this talk today, is that just this morning I learned that we have been granted by Vinnova, Swedish Innovation Agency, a grant on digital gamified UX solution for sustainable quality attributes definition, with together with the University of Göteborg and Norwegian counterparts, Geely Design and SEFT. This will be very interesting, because again, in that project, we will try to make the process of user experience and design experience evaluation, I would say, more human. So that's our goal. And thank you for your attention.